If you're struggling to improve your fighting in Fortnite, then this video will help you out. I'm going to be taking you through the steps in which I've been implementing recently to help improve my fighting, allowing me to do better in ranked and also improve my cash cut placements. I'll be showing you all the different strategies and techniques that I have been using, so make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe, as I'm hosting a $100 sub only tournament at 10k, which you'll be able to play in. Without further ado, let's go on to the part 1 of today's video, talking about warm-up. So starting off the warm-up section, we do have a variety of different drills. Now this is all done in the Raiders V4 practice map, and as you guys can see, we start off with a nice little bit of free building. Now do this for a few minutes before moving into some aim training, which again, there is a variety of different drills. Me personally, I have my two favorites, which is this aim duel on a cone, where you can use a variety of different guns such as shotgun and SMGs. Then I also like this one, which really focuses in on your shotgun aim. You have to try and avoid the barrier while still hitting the moving targets. So it's effectively Kovacs, but for free in creative. After that, I then move on to these piece control tunnels, where you can practice going through with your mechanics and making sure you're always taking right hand peeks on the, obviously, like the fake bots which you are going to try to kill, or the targets you could say. Always try to make sure you're doing the right peeks on these bots in order to get the muscle memory down in your game. After this, we come to the final stage of the warm-up, which is peak practice, where you have a target which you're trying to shoot, but anytime you show yourself to that target, it actually hits you, so you always have to play really smart corner and right hand peeks in order to win against this bot, because otherwise it just hits you. Next up, I want to briefly touch on confidence in fighting. Now, whether this be ranked or cash cups, it's important that you pretty much W key everyone you do see. Now yes, it may be difficult and frustrating in the short term, as you may die or lose to better players, but that is where there is room for improvement. You can identify those deaths and analyze where you went wrong in the fight and why you lost that fight. Then that will help you build towards being a better fighter down the road. It's all about making that sacrifice now in order to have that long-term improvement in the future. But next up, I'm going to show you guys both how to fight both aggressively and defensively in your fights. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about aggressive strategies, and especially how you guys can push a player that is boxed up, as this is something you will often face in both ranked games and cash cup games. So as you guys can see, this player is in the double box scenario. So how do we actually go about approaching this player? Well, first of all, what you don't want to do is just run up to the wall and simply try and double pickaxe this wall, because often the player inside will make an edit on you and they will get a free tag instigating the fight. Therefore, they're going to be more confident in the fight and most likely win it most of the time. So the correct way in which you want to approach a player is be off to the side diagonal when you're approaching their box. Now, specifically, I like to create multiple boxes just like this, just so you have some place to play from. But the best angle you want to approach from is going to be right here. Now, the reason why is because when you create this peanut butter peak in the top right-hand corner and you stick right in the side of it, you can actually deal damage to the wall and then try and take the wall, obviously, from a correct right-hand peak. But even if you take the wall, even if the opponent makes, let's say the opponent makes a top row edit on you, if you're sat back in this corner, you can actually shoot directly through into the opponent's box, and there's nowhere they can go to hide from this. However, if you go into the opponent's box, you can't really see through and you cannot get your bullet in between that gap. So it's really, really difficult in order to try and hit you back. Whereas when we're in this scenario, you have a perfect line of sight straight through, as you guys can see, just due to the fact Fortnite is obviously a right-hand peek mechanic. So that's the first way in order to approach someone's box and fight them safely from behind a right-hand peak. So now move on to the safe second strategy of how to approach someone in the box, and this is my preferred one. So as you're approaching off their wall, what you want to be doing is blocking off both angles which they could shoot you from, so they could make an edit on that wall, for example, and have an angle on you here. Same for that wall, obviously, so you want to have the both angles blocked off. Then I make this edit. You guys may have seen this edit being very, very popularized and used by the pros at the moment, because you're able to shoot through without the enemy seeing you back. And I place a cone here. Now, the most important part of this move is that you must control this left-hand wall. If they control this left-hand wall, you immediately must edit back off and go back into your own box and your own space. However, if you can get this piece here where you have the cone and you have that left-hand wall, what you can then do is swing it at the pickaxe once, making the wall weak. Now, quite often when you make the wall weak, people inside the box are going to do this top row corner edit and try and get a jump shot off on you. Now, what you can do here is actually edit up the cone, and again, this is the move that I use most commonly, is I edit up the cone. Now, what is going to happen is they're going to end up shooting the cone, meaning they then can't shoot their shotgun, obviously due to shotgun delay. You can edit out the wall, create this cone here somewhere to stand on, and reset this cone. Now, what you have set up is a right-hand corner peanut butter peak, and everyone loves a good peanut butter peak, and you're able to just jump up and do that. So again, it's a very, very simple mechanic which you can do very, very quickly, and it just allows you to alleviate the chance of them being there. So literally set up the cone, block the return damage, and bang. Obviously, they've got that top row corner edited quite often. If they don't, then you can just continue to do this strategy, and then you can set up into like a diagonal octagonal box on their box, for example, and then you have the exact peak which I've just shown you guys about 30 seconds ago for the other strategy. So both these strategies can be used and combined together, but it's just a very, very safe way to pressure someone's box, always from right hand peaks, without the opportunity for them to get damage back onto you. So next up, we're moving on to some defensive techniques. Now, first of all, I have what's called the snail technique. If you stand in the corner of your box, you can actually build 3 more boxes around you, leaving you in a 2v2 whilst barely moving. So this is very, very overpowered, and when you then control a 2x2 scenario with all your different edits, you can use this to try and get some offensive damage, because you have to remember you don't have infinite mats. So one of the best ways to try and get damage on your opponent is pre-fires. After this, your opponent's most likely to come into your box and you control all the edits. As you guys can see, there's multiple different ways in which I could have shot and killed my opponent, even going above him if we need to. This tactic just allows you to have a bunch of different angles and opportunities in which you can pressure your opponent even if you are weak, but once they come into your edits, you can then effectively keep expanding and just use all of your different builds to try and get different pre-fires or right hand angles on your opponent. It's very, very overpowered, and often good players will see this and back off. So the last thing I want to talk about in today's video is always constantly fighting smart in your fights. Now, whether this be ranked or tournaments, it's important that you use the strategies which I've shown and which you are going to learn from today's video in fights in order to be much more successful. Generally, if you fight much smarter, fighting from right hand peaks and taking smart peaks all the time, as well as using smart ways to approach and defend yourself in boxes, you will be a lot more successful, and you'll realize actually you'll start to see improvements in your fighting and become more confident as a player. Confidence is such a huge thing that this could be the thing that your game needs in order to go to the next level and be more successful. Maybe whether it be qualifying for solo cash cup finals or getting your first earnings. I really hope the tips I show have helped you out and you guys can implement them successfully in today's video. Thank you very much for watching until this part of the video. I really hope you have found it helpful and enjoyed. Please make sure to check out my Twitch. It will be the pinned comment and also linked in the description, where we're live streaming different games with viewers as well as other tournaments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out from me.